All right, Marcus, conversation three,
Hey, conversation three.
the case against Trump. We're going to
Yeah.
move quickly. So, leading up to January 6th, President Donald Trump knew that he lost the election. He persisted in lying to the people, calling them to come on January 6th, revving them up, sending them to stop the constitutional process because he lost. This tweet in the picture, if you can see it, is where he says, "Big protest in DC on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild." All right. This Mike Pence quote is the theme.
Irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution, but I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I mean, I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again.
All right. Short and sweet. To the point.
Sums it up.
The argument is that Donald Trump has always put himself and his victory over the Constitution, the country, its people, and has disqualified himself many times. Should not be president ever again. This episode, conversation. This is Bill Barr. He's the Attorney General for Donald Trump. He was kind of a Trump loyalist, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
He did like the
He
things
still
Trump.
sometimes apologizes for Trump kind of a little bit, but he's not supportive of Trump still right now though.
Right. And
has criticized him.
And this is why he clearly says that Trump knew these claims of fraud were not, there was nothing to them. There was no evidence of them.
Yeah.
And Bill Barr was like the Attorney General, so he was in charge of the Justice Department. He was in a position to know, and he would have been motivated to find this evidence that would have been to support Trump's claims. So here, I'm just going to listen to Bill Barr. This is from his testimony.
There was an avalanche of all these allegations of fraud that built up over a number of days. And it was like playing whack-a-mole because something would come out one day and then the next day it would be another issue. Also, I was influenced by the fact that all the early claims that I understood were completely bogus and silly and usually based on complete misinformation. And so I didn't consider the quality of claims right out of the box to give me any feeling that there was really substance here. It got under my skin, but I also felt it was time for me to say something. So I set up a lunch with the AP reporter, Mike Balsamo, and I told him at lunch, I made this statement that to date we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election. And the president was as mad as I've ever seen him, and he was trying to control himself. The president said, "Well, this is killing me. You didn't have to say this. You must have said this because you hate Trump. You hate Trump." And I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was bullshit. I mean, that the claims of fraud were bullshit. And, he was indignant about that. And I reiterated that they'd wasted a whole month on these claims on the Dominion voting machines, and they were idiotic claims. I specifically raised the Dominion voting machines, which I found to be among the most disturbing allegations, disturbing in the sense that I saw absolutely zero basis for the allegations, but they were made in such a sensational way that they obviously were influencing a lot of people, members of the public, that there was this systemic corruption in the system and that their votes didn't count and that these machines controlled by somebody else were actually determining it, which was complete nonsense. And it was being laid out there. And I told them that it was crazy stuff and they were wasting their time on that. And it was doing a grave disservice to the country.
Okay, so the very next day, the president released a video rehashing some of the very same claims that his chief law enforcement officer had told him were, quote, nonsense.
We have a company that's very suspect. Its name is Dominion. With the turn of a dial, or the change of a chip, you can press a button for Trump and the vote goes to Biden. What kind of a system is this?
I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with, he's become detached from reality if he really believes this stuff. On the other hand, when I went into this and would, tell him how crazy some of these allegations were, there was never an indication of interest in what the actual facts were. In my opinion then, and my opinion now, is that the election was not stolen by fraud. And I haven't seen anything since the election that changes my mind on that.
All right. Pretty straightforward. Donald Trump knew there was nothing to those allegations, but he continued to say them. The next day is when he put out this video, and it's a 46-minute video. You can find the whole thing if you search December 2nd, 2020, if you're interested in it. But he just rehashes all of these things that he'd been told were not true, that were false. There was nothing to them. His own attorney general said it was BS, but he continued to put it out there, sensationalize it, convince people it was true, and keep the lie going. One thing about that video is at the end when he says Trump had no actual interest in the facts. Like, he didn't actually want to know what happened. He just wanted stuff that would support him, support his argument. All right. Any thoughts?
I think the video is summing up pretty well that Donald Trump's just a liar, and he keeps denying a peaceful transfer of power and denying elections and facts.
All right. Next time we're going to break it down. We're going to look at all the specific things he was told and then what he went out and said in public. It's crazy when you look at it all laid out there. He kept tweeting about it. He kept spreading the lie. So, all right. Short and sweet. Next time we'll keep going.